So this just in, it is the Mi Pad 4, so the latest Mi Pad, and finally Xiaomi has moved away from MediaTek and they're using our Qualcomm chips. So we have the Snapdragon 660, which is a really good move. Not that MediaTek are bad, they're just not as good as their Qualcomm counterparts in both performance, the GPUs they normally use, and the efficiency of those chipsets. So this model is different from the Mi Pad 3 because it's now using a 16:10 aspect ratio, not the 4:3. The resolution is down on that screen, so it won't be as sharp. It's no longer that Retina panel that we have seen in so many devices, the 7.9-inch one. We have an 8-inch now, 1920 by 1200 resolution. It is still an IPS panel. The battery capacity's gone down though. It's gone down 600 milliamp hours, so it's 6,000 in total, not the 6,600 on the Mi Pad 3. But the battery life on this model will actually be better because it has a more efficient chipset, that Snapdragon 660. So my version has 4 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage. There is a higher spec model that does have LTE support. So I bought this model here from Trading Shenzhen. They have included an EU adapter for me and a Type-C to USB OTG adapter. So I can see the packaging is fairly simple. The tablet is there and it doesn't seem to have any padding around it, but it's got the box to protect it. I can see that it does actually come with a pre-applied screen protector on this. It's matte, so if you want the screen to be matte and not glossy, then you can probably actually just leave it on there. So up the front here we do have a 5 megapixel camera, but we'll take a look at the tablet in detail in just a minute. First I'll just cover the box's contents. So we have our power adapter here. It's very small, one of those little travel ones. The maximum rating is 5 volts, 2 amps. So I don't know whether the tablet, I'm going to call it a phone, aren't I, is supporting Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3. I will have to check that out. It could be disabled even though the chipset supports it. Then inside this little leaflet we have a little warranty card thing. That's all in Chinese, so I won't bother showing you that. And then the MicroSD card tray tool or SIM tool if you happen to get that LTE version with very limited Chinese bands on it. And then of course a Type-C cable here. Very quick size comparison here. So it looks almost like a very large phone. Perhaps this will be the size of the Mi Max 4, who knows. But this is the Mi Max 2 right here. So that's 6.4 inches. This is 8 inches. And then this is the 6.59 Vivo Nex S, which I'm currently testing the battery life on. You can see quite a bit smaller there compared to these two giants. So along the bottom here, you'll find the loudspeakers. We have a microphone, which is that little dot on the left, to the left, I should say, of the Type-C port. 2 Torx screws holding the rear casing to the plastic frame. This is actually plastic around the outside here, so that's screwed into place. On the left is the SIM tray, which of course I've pulled out now, so you can see microSD card support on this, which is great. And there is a gap here, so this gap is where you would put a nano SIM if you happen to have that LTE version. On the top, 3.5mm headphone jack with microphone support, secondary microphone, and you can see this part here, this is plastic for the Bluetooth and wireless AC reception. You also note too that they didn't do anything silly like remove this jack. I was a little bit worried in the beginning that they might remove it, and I thought surely not on a tablet, so great to have it here. The rear autofocus camera with an f2.0 aperture, it's 13 megapixels. These buttons here on the right are made out of metal, but I've noticed that this one is a little loose and it will actually rattle around. So there you can see that it's relatively slim. The build quality is all good apart from, at least with my unit here, I'm getting some rattling coming through with that button, but that is it. Otherwise, it's a solid, well put together tablet with a good finish. So it will not have MIUI 10 yet. That's still in beta. The stable's coming, I think, sometime soon. So later on, it will be coming with that, of course. They'll update all of their newer stock. Let's see the boot time here. Now, it's probably already been set up because I think our Trading Shenzhen would have possibly put Google Play on there for me. Okay, and I can see that they have done that. Disappointing to see. Now, this is only going to be because it's the white version here with a white bezel, that we're going to have this border around the screen, just like on the Mi Max. You can see it there, so it does stand out. With the black version, you won't notice it there, which is a little bit annoying. So for free storage, you've got 52 gigabytes straight out of the box with a 64 gigabyte model. It ships with MIUI 9.6.3, and it does have a security patch level of May the 5th, and it is Android 8.1. But there is an update available. It's 99 megabytes and it improves the system stability and performance. Now it seems that I did not escape a large update. We've got a 1.3 gigabyte update that came through as well after the 99 megabyte one. Quick peek now at the camera sensor information and the sensors. So the front camera is a 5 megapixel Samsung one. The rear camera is a 13 megapixel OmniVision. We have an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and then ALS, that is our ambient light sensor. So as much as I want to keep it, I'm going to have to lose this matte screen protector if I want to look at the screen properly. So we'll get that off. You can see it is nice and vibrant. It's, well, clear at the moment. We'll take a look now at some colors. But before I do, I'll show you some of the MIUI features we've got on here. So we do have double tap to wake, something that I think was brought in by LG quite a few years ago. The most interesting thing here, of course, is the reading mode. So that'll put on the blue light, and you can schedule that at whatever time. So it's going to kill the blue light, make it a little bit easier on your eyes. So that's perfect to use this as an ebook reader. And then, of course, we do have this contrasting colors, which is the most interesting for me. So it's on automatic contrast by default. You can increase it or standard, which I find standard actually looks the best, more correct, if you will, with the white balance. But then you can adjust it here. So you can put it onto warm or cool when you use this right here. So you can change all that. Now onto the display. So I pointed out we've got those kind of ugly, aren't they? The black bar, the border around the outside, it isn't too pleasant. Now some may see this screen as a downgrade from the Mi Pad 1, 2, and 3, but I don't actually in using it. It's a bright screen. 500 lux max is brighter than what we're getting on, for example, the Mi Pad 3. The viewing angles are what you'd expect for an IPS panel. It is fully laminated. It's covered with either Gorilla Glass or Dragon Tail glass, and the DPI used for the Android operating system, that is 320. So the gamma comes in at approximately 2.3. It should be 2.2, but it's understandable here. It's very close. It's not bad at all. And some sample images here as well. So it's a good looking screen, a very nice panel. I'm happy with this. I don't see it, as I mentioned, as a downgrade. Okay, we're losing out on pixel density, but it's not that much of a massive difference when you're looking at it, unless of course you get out a microscope then and start to look at the screen. So the blacks are deep enough and color reproduction and things here are good. So you can see that it's not a super deep AMOLED black, no, but it's an IPS panel, but overall a good panel that Xiaomi has gone with. And this is also really great. It will go to a super low dim level, so you can actually look at the screen with the lights off without burning out your retinas. It's that dark that you can't see anything now. I can just make it out, and hopefully I can turn up the brightness here. There we go. And you can see that it just becomes super bright there at over 500 lux. And you can actually make out the screen and use it, well, not perfectly fine, but almost in direct sunlight. Now we do have the full screen gestures, which I was really looking forward to, because I think with this kind of screen, it would be nice to use it in full screen mode. So I'm going to enable that because I have been using these gestures. So they do go through a quick little guide here on how to learn to use them, and it is very, very simple. So it just shows you what you need to do. So you swipe up from the bottom, and that will take you to home. And if you swipe up and hold, or pause as they say, that's your recent apps. And then swiping from the sides, the edges is going to take you back from both sides there. So it is fairly straightforward, and once you swap over and start using it, it is really quite good. Now there is a gaming mode, so this can restrict the background apps, and it just helps really boost the performance of that game. So you find your game you want in the list there, and then you select it. Now you can see there are a few bloatware applications on this, your Chinese ones there. So that's the Google Play installer. You can keep that, but it'll probably actually be on the internal storage. And these other ones here in tools, there's a few, but it's not as much as I have seen. So you can remove and uninstall all of these. You can also uninstall them in bulk. There's various different methods, either through settings, or you can just go along here and you can select those ones there that you want to uninstall, and then just get rid of them all in bulk. Free RAM, you typically have around 2.5 gigabytes on first boot. It's a lot higher, about 2.9, 2.8. I'll just clear things out now, and it's going to free up, well, nothing to clear in cache, actually nothing. So about that is going to be what you have free. Now an ideal use for this tablet will be, of course, eBooks, and you can turn on that blue light filter. You're able to do it actually from the toggles at the top. You can see it is right there. So reading mode, turn that on,
and it's a little easier on your eyes. And the text looks good. It's sharp. It's not as sharp this screen as the Mi Pad 1 to 3 because it's not using the Retina panel, but it is still perfectly fine at 8 inches, having 1920 by 1200 the resolution. This is what it will look like. So it's going to be sharper than your book. PDF magazines, large files, they look really good as well. No problems. If it's a huge file, don't expect it to be as fast as an iPad. The iPad is gonna win. No one can really beat the iPad in terms of reading PDF files, large, heavy ones, that is. So this has decent speakers on here. One of a very few limited amount of tablets that do, because normally these Chinese tablets, when I review them, they have terrible speakers. But these ones, they've got good volume. They don't distort at 100%. There is a tiny little bit of bass. And also the quality out of the 3.5mm headphone jack. It does also sound very good to me. It's just lacking FM radio, which would have been nice to have on there, but not a major for me at least. But I'll give you a sample now of those speakers at 100% volume.
Now benchmarks are one thing, of course. It's only a synthetic one. It gives you an average estimate of what it's going to be like compared to other devices. But I tell you now that the performance is very smooth. So I've got a lot of apps here opened up and you can swap and go between them. And really that's not too much of an issue. I haven't seen that typical full gesture, full screen mode lag that I have seen on some of the mobiles. In fact, a couple of patches went out recently for the Redmi Note 5 that did address that. And it seems that they've pulled that through, those changes, to the Mi Pad 4 here. Now, of course, you're going to get some delays there. That's typical with the internet loading things in. It's not 100% super smooth and perfect. Sometimes you will see a tiny little bit of animation delay, but overall the performance is very good. And what you'd expect with the Snapdragon 660 and the 4GB of RAM that my particular version has right here.
So web browsing in Chrome is very smooth. The screen is very responsive to touch. There's absolutely no issues with that. Even though this has got a lot of images in, it's quite smooth there. So I'll swap over now to a different tab and you can see that smooth. Over one here as well. So really decent performance as expected for this particular chipset. So it doesn't have a fingerprint reader on here, which I feel they could have added on this bottom bezel. It's quite large. They could have put a front-facing one on here. So I've already added my face, as you can see there. It scanned it. Now I've got the tripod and the camera in the way, so this is probably not going to actually work. So I will lock it, and then you need to wake it first. So tap the power button, and I'll try now to get it to work. Okay, there we go. It did actually get it. It took a little while there because I've got the tripod and everything else in the way. But off camera, it will work quite quickly. So does it have GPS? Unfortunately, it does not have any GPS or hardware compass, which would have been great if they have included that. And also HDMI out, then this could have been almost a perfect tablet. Oh, and a fingerprint reader. I mean, the list could go on and on and on, but at least it does have an eMMC 5 for the internal storage. eMMC 5.1 spec, so very fast for this type of storage. It's not going to bottleneck the system. If it was maybe eMMC 4.5, then it would. The Antutu score is very fast for an Android tablet. A lot better than those MediaTek ones. Even if they've got 10 cores, the 6 cores, no, this is a lot better. Those ones tend to cap out at about 100,000 points. This is 144, so very good speeds. And I'm seeing it so far that this is a fast tablet. And thanks, of course, to the lower resolution screen, it's going to be even quicker when it comes to things like gaming, which I will show you later on an example of that. Now, we don't have full treble support. Yes, it has Android 8, which does support treble, but we don't have access to both of the partitions there. That is typical Xiaomi, just like the DRM. So DRM info reports that we've only got security level 3 for this. And this, what does that mean, this jargon? Well, it means that Netflix in HD is not going to work on this tablet. So you have to find another way also to install it. You can sideload it, or you can either just find it, the easiest way, APK mirror, find it, but you'll only have everything in standard definition. Okay, two things here to point out. I've plugged in my Qualcomm Quick Charge 3 charger, And no, it's not supporting Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3 as expected, but it's going to charge at, I think it is 10 watts the rate, and it will take approximately 3 hours to fully charge this tablet. There is a white status notification LED. You can see it right there. So are there any PUBG gamers out there? I tried to play a little bit myself, but I just don't have a lot of time. But this device, with the chipset it has in it and for its price, should be really good with an 8-inch screen as well. Now the graphics setting that you can use with this, just to show you, so high frame rate and the HD. Now you can use applications like GFX Tool to put it onto the highest settings. And I can see already at the start here when lots of players are loading in that the performance seems really quite good. A few little stutters. Or the textures loading in, things like that, but that is kind of normal. Still looking good, very smooth, as you can see. Okay, so it does seem very playable, very smooth, the frame rate. It's a lot better than the MediaTek tablets that I've been testing out as of recent. As expected, because it's a lot more powerful. Oh, there's someone right there. Okay, that must have been a bot, I think. So this is a sample now from the front-facing camera. I find the video quality is perfectly acceptable. It's going to be fine for using Skype. The quality of the audio as well is good for a tablet. Trust me, I have both seen and heard a lot worse than this tablet in this price range. So for me, this is perfectly acceptable. Sample from the rear camera, so it's got 13 megapixels, and for a tablet camera, the video quality is alright. The photo quality, here are a couple of samples, as you can see. Nothing amazing. Your mobile phone will take a better photo and video than this. Audio quality is alright. Now we don't have any settings whatsoever with video, so I don't even know what resolution this is shooting at, but you can shoot in 4K if you use open camera. So this is now 4K with open camera as mentioned, and the quality a little bit better. Of course you do gain more detail because of the increased resolution. Now the focus seems to be alright. It's not going to definitely win any speed awards or anything like that. In fact, I don't actually think that's focusing properly, but you can't really expect a lot. After all, this is a tablet, and still great to see the fact that we can record in 4K. Now for battery life, I've done a little bit of testing, so I don't have enough time to do my full test because I'm going to need at least 10 hours if not more, because YouTube streaming for the brightness set at about 200 lux, so not the brightest setting, I'm losing about 8% battery life for 1 hour, so that's really good. So it's looking very promising for on-screen time here. My estimate, and remember this is just an estimate, is at least over 10 hours of continual on-screen time. So looking very good in terms of battery life, better than the Mi Pad 3. Alright, so to quickly recap here, we have a very decent tablet with a good build quality, apart from my volume buttons rattle. That's just one thing with the build. It's very minor, and a minor slight annoyance there. Otherwise, the screen, you could look at it, some people will say it's a downgrade from the Retina panel, but I don't see it that way. It is brighter. The sharpness, okay, it's not going to be as sharp because it's got a lower resolution, but that is also going to aid the performance of things like games. Gaming, it seems to perform really well. PUBG is going perfectly fine. It's playable. The frame rate is good. You will see a couple of dips and stutters here and there. ROM performance is really good. So recently they worked on the full gesture animation stutters and lags and bugs and things that I was seeing on the first devices that really got those ROMs. And you swipe down for notifications and you see a bit of a stutter. Or when you were multitasking, occasionally it will be a little bit stuttery there. It just wasn't 100% fluent and smooth, but it's a lot better here. Still not quite perfect. So there are different models. So you've got the 3GB RAM model, so expect maybe it to be slightly slower, but I've noticed not that much of a difference actually going from 4GB to 3. And I know this as a fact because I have another Redmi Note 5 that's only got 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage. And honestly, it's very hard to tell the difference in performance from my 4GB model. And there is the model with LTE, but just beware that it's going to have very limited band support there. I know the bands that they normally typically use in China will actually work for me here in Spain, so I will be okay. It may be able to also make voice calls, but you will need to connect in a headset. So you can obviously get a bit of privacy or something like that, unless you don't mind using the loudspeaker and the microphones on board, because there's no earpiece. That is missing with this. Cameras turn out to be better than your typical average Chinese tablet. In fact, you can record 4K with open camera on the rear cam. I didn't expect that.
Charge times are looking to be about 3 hours. That is just a guess, judging from what percentage I was gaining and looking at a GSAM battery meter there. Same goes with battery life. I've only been able to test out for an hour or so. Just don't have time to get this video out. And it is looking very promising, so about 10 hours. So overall, this is a solid, great little tablet. And the audio quality too is another thing that is positive. Now, you would think that if you're holding it like this, you're going to block those speakers, but you can still hear them well. You do, of course, block them a little bit. Same goes for the wireless signal. So we've got the antenna on the side, but I noticed that when I put my hand right over it, my palm, I was still getting a good ping rate in PUBG, so that's not going to affect the performance. I was a little bit worried about that, and that's simply not the case here. So great to see microSD card support. No micro HDMI out, I feel, is a bit of an error. I would have really liked to see micro HDMI out on this so I can connect it up to a TV there, and that would probably be perfect. What would be even better, of course, would be GPS, compass support, and a front-facing finger scanner there, so you can use fingerprint security instead of just relying on a PIN code or the face unlocking, which does work. It's fast, but just remember, it's not very secure. So the price of this, it's priced, I feel, reasonable for what it's offering. And is it better than the Mi Pad 3? I think it is. It's definitely faster. The build, they're about the same. The quality of the speaker is also about the same there. Battery life, this gets the win as well. This is the one to go for. When I first got the Mi Pad 3, if you've seen my video from last year, it was an absolute disaster. There were bugs and glitches in gaming. It was a horrible stuttery mess. And at least when they released this one, that's not the case because they've got a lot more experience, of course, with Qualcomm's chips. Thank you so much for watching this review. I do hope to catch you back in the channel. I've got plenty more up and coming. There may possibly be a gaming video with this one here and maybe an update on the exact battery life that I'm able to achieve in my full battery testing.